Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be building an enclosure for Prehistoric Kingdom's latest edition, the Ankylosaurus. And here it is in all its glory. And once again, the Prehistoric Kingdom team have absolutely blown it out of the water. They've created an incredibly beautiful design for the Ankylosaurus, and a very paleo-accurate one as well. Just look at the armoured plating running down its back, even on the arms here, and the head is just covered in armour. Incredible. And look at the leg muscles of this animal. My goodness, look at the definition here in the back of the legs. My goodness, wow. And of course we have the bony club at the back. Imagine getting hit by that. Oh my goodness, that would cause some serious damage. Now when we look, there is some differences between the male and the female. You can see here the female is actually larger than the male, which is very interesting, because when you look at most animals in nature, the males tend to be a lot larger, but for some reason this is not the case with the Ankylosaurus. The female is a lot bigger than the male there, but that seems to be the only difference. There's no difference in the colour, just the size really. Very interesting. And up here we have 3 different skins to choose from. You can see at the moment we're on marsh, a nice green colour, and then we can switch it to peat, a very nice brown colour. I think this would suit a desert kind of habitat. And at the bottom we have my favourite, which is Levy. And this one I think just looks absolutely gorgeous. I love the contrast between it's kind of like a yellowy colour at the top here, and then the patterns here going along the sides of the body just stands out a lot better, I think, than these other 2 skins. So this is the skin I'm going to be going for, Levy. So without further ado, let's get to it and build this Ankylosaurus a home. Right, let's begin. So the first thing that I do whenever I'm building a habitat, I always place the animals that I'm building the habitat for, I always place them down first, just to get an idea of how big I need to make their enclosure. Because sometimes you can make a habitat and then place your animals in and you think, oh my goodness, I've made this far too small for them, or I made it far too big. So I always put them down first, just to get a sense of scale. So you can see there we've got 2 Ankylosauruses that we've put in this enclosure, and we're not going to have any more. We're just going to stick to 2 at the moment. We've got a male and a female, and the reason for this is because there isn't a lot of evidence that Ankylosauruses lived in big herds like many other dinosaurs did. Perhaps this is because they were so heavily armoured that they didn't need protection from a herd. You know, they're built like tanks, these animals, so they can literally just walk around on their own and just go it alone. They don't need to gather together in a big herd for protection. I mean, their eyelids are even armoured, for goodness sake. So these animals didn't really need to hang around in a group. So for now, we're just going to stick to 2 individuals, a male and a female. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why on earth have you made this enclosure so big for just 2 dinosaurs? Well, I'll tell you. This is not going to be just an ordinary, boring enclosure. No, we don't have that here. We are going to have an enclosure with 3 different species. Yes, so we will have the Triceratops and the Edmontosaurus joining the Ankylosaurus in this enclosure. So you're going to have a variety of different animals to look at, and all these animals would have actually lived together in the same place at the same time. So it's very paleo accurate as well. The guests will get a real feel of what life was like 66 million years ago in North America during the Cretaceous period. And we're also going to have different habitat zones. So for each animal, they'll have their own zone. They can wander in and out of each other's zones, but I think it's nice to have a bit of variety. So at the moment we've built this lovely marshland, a nice swamp for our Ankylosauruses, but when we bring in the Triceratops, we're going to make a nice open valley full of shrubs and bushes and lots of vegetation for the animals to graze on. And then when we bring in the Edmontosaurus, I'm planning to build a big redwood forest in the background. Edmontosaurus are actually capable of standing up on their back legs, and when they do, they can reach up quite high. So I think the low branches of the trees would make a great snack for them. So there you have it, 3 different habitats and 3 different animals. And then what I'm planning to do next is to build a safari drive-through where the guests can actually go inside the enclosure and really get up close and personal with the dinosaurs. We'll just have to make sure that the car is really well built and very sturdy, because the animals in this enclosure, well, they could be quite dangerous. The car getting hit by that huge club on the end of the Ankylosaurus's tail, or perhaps a Triceratops smashing into the side of the door with its horns, or maybe even a stampede of Edmontosauruses. So we're going to have to make sure that this car is built like the Ankylosaurus. We need to build it like a tank. We need to make sure that it can withstand the force of these animals, because we want to make sure that our guests come back in one piece. However, I'd like to think that the dinosaurs eventually get used to the vehicles inside their enclosure, because once they realise that they don't pose any threats, hopefully they'll be comfortable and they'll just look at the vehicle like another dinosaur in their enclosure, and they won't bother with it. We'll have to have some safari rules where people are not allowed to eat or take any drink with them, flash photography, and keep their children quiet, because I imagine the sound of a screaming child may annoy some of the dinosaurs, and we certainly don't want that. But yeah, I hope that Prehistoric Kingdom actually bring this into the game at some point, because other games like Jurassic World Evolution, you can actually put in your own safari in that game. They have the huge glass balls, what are they called now? The gyrospheres, I think they're called, and they just spin forward, but the seat inside the actual ball just stays still, so the guests can just drive around the enclosure, and you can build your own trackway going through it. I'd love something like that to come to Prehistoric Kingdom in the future. I think it would really be a good idea. There is some concept art of vehicles, some big jeeps and even helicopters as well. I'm guessing that's for if the dinosaur escapes, the helicopter will have to dart them. So, maybe some point in the future these things will eventually come into the game. I hope they do, because I think it would really improve the game a lot. Now, I have some very important and exciting news to share with you. This is not going to be a one-off build, no. We're actually going to turn this into our very own dinosaur park. Usually we make a build and then we forget about it and we move on and make another one. We have made a park before, Pleistocene Park, which was full of Ice Age animals, woolly mammoths, woolly rhinos and saber-toothed cats. But this time we're going to be making a classic dinosaur zoo. We've had so many comments off you guys saying on our videos, you should make your own theme park, you should make your own zoo. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. because normally we just make one enclosure for one animal, we build the build, and that would be it. We'd forget about it, we'd move on to another build. Not this time. This time we're going to make a massive park with all sorts of different dinosaurs. We might even put some of the mammals in as well. We're super excited for this. I can't wait. And if you guys have any ideas for this park, anything you'd like to see for future builds, big ideas, small ideas, no matter what it is, please let us know in the comments down below of what you'd like to see, because some of you really do have some fantastic ideas. When we read through the comments, we're like, oh my god, that's a fantastic idea, we'll put that in to our next video. So don't be shy, share your thoughts with us. Let us know what you'd like to see in this dinosaur park. So as you can see, the build is coming along nicely now. I'm sure our Ankylosauruses will appreciate this swamp that we've made for them. They'll be able to wallow in the mud or just cool off in the water and escape that intense heat. So yeah, it's coming on very nice. I'm liking the way this enclosure is looking at the moment. A few more details we need to put in. It's always when you finish the build that you realise, oh, I should have put that in, or I've missed this. You always find something. So I'm sure as we continue to build this enclosure, we'll find little things that we can add in, a few things that we can change, and also find the mistakes that we've left in as well. But yeah, at the moment it's looking jolly well good. Anyway, let's get up some facts about this new dinosaur that has come to the game, the Ankylosaurus. Let's have a little look about the information that we have about them. Okay, let's start off with the size. Just how big were these animals? Well, the largest individual that was ever found measured around 10 to 11 meters long, which is pretty long indeed, just a little bit shorter than a T-Rex. A T-Rex is around 12, maybe 12 and a half meters, coming close to 13, the largest individuals. So it's a little bit shorter than a T-Rex. But when we come to the height of this animal, they're actually not very tall at all. The largest individual came to 1.7 meters tall, which is about the average height of a human. So that's really strange. They're very long, but they're not very tall. And I think I know why this might have been. This is my opinion anyway. I think it's because when we look at Ankylosaurus, they're very well armoured on their backs. However, this is not the case for their bellies. Their bellies are actually not very protected at all. They're quite soft. So for a predator, this is going to be a really obvious place that you're going to target and try and attack to kill your prey. So it would make sense to keep this place very low to the ground and very hard for predators to get to. Your back, your head is completely full of armour. You don't really need to worry about that. But your soft underbelly, you want to keep that nice and low to the ground and as protected as possible. So that's why I think this animal has evolved this way. And to be honest with you, I think this animal has to be the best animal that's ever evolved for defense. I mean, the thing is just covered in armor. We saw before when we were looking at the animal up close, you know, its head is just covered in these bony plates all across its back. Even the forearms, the front limbs are just covered in these little bony plates. Even their eyelids are armored. So it shouldn't come as a big surprise when you find out that this animal weighed an absolute ton. In fact, it weighed multiple tons. It weighed between 4 and 8 tons, which is extremely heavy. When you think about it, this animal is quite short for a dinosaur. I know it's quite long, but you know, all this armor, you know, it's a lot of weight to be carrying. But you need it. You need all this armor when you're living with animals like Tyrannosaurus Rex, which has one of the strongest bite forces of any animal in the animal kingdom. When you're living along predators like that, it makes sense why this animal evolved this way. You have to keep yourself protected. If you don't, then you're just going to be gobbled up by this huge predator. So you've got to make sure that you protect yourself. But Ankylosaurus was not just a dinosaur of defense. No, this animal also was capable of attack. And if you were a predator back in the Cretaceous period and you got too close to this animal, then you sure as hell would have found out, because if you get too close to it, you're going to get hit. You're going to get hit so hard by that enormous bony club at the end of its tail. The size of the club measures 23.5 inches long and 19.5 inches wide, and it weighs up to 20 kilograms. That's the same as those big 20-kilogram plates you see when they're loading up the bar in the gym with it. Imagine someone hitting you with one of these plates. My goodness, you certainly wouldn't want that if you're a T-Rex. Now, let's have a look at how much power, how much force the Ankylosaurus could hit you with this tail club. Well, to put things in perspective, a professional baseball player can swing a bat with the force of 13 newtons per second. So, how much power, how much force do you think the Ankylosaurus could swing its tail club with? Well, it completely just blows it out of the water. An Ankylosaurus would impact with an impulse of 4,800 newtons per second. Flipping heck, that is just unbelievable. I mean, 13 to 4,800. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't fancy being hit by a professional baseball player with a bat. In fact, I don't fancy being hit by anyone with a bat, to be honest. But, oh my God, 4,800 newtons. That is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, that would cause some serious damage. That's enough to break a T-Rex's leg, or even if it hit it in the face, probably break its skull, smash its head in. My God, that is just unbelievable. But then it says, yet in dinosaur fossils, there seems to be very little evidence with injuries which consist with such impacts. But I would argue that that's because the T-Rex probably knew. You probably had a few young T-Rexes that made this mistake and probably died, and the other tyrannosaurs that seen this happen probably thought, my God, I'm not going near that animal. Because word gets round, not literally like dinosaurs are discussing like, don't mess with that animal, but you see some animals in nature where as soon as they come on scene, the other animals just think, get out of the way. You know, a bit like a honey badger. When a honey badger walks onto the scene, everyone just knows about it and they're like, don't go near him, he's trouble. And if I were a T-Rex, I know I certainly wouldn't be going near this animal, because I just don't see it being worth the risk. If you go near this animal, you are either going to get your leg broken, ribs broken. If it gets your head, it could break the skull, could fracture parts of your skull, and you might not be able to hunt after an injury like that. And even if you manage to get past the club, you know, you've got to try and get past the armour. So is it really worth it? I don't know. I think there's easier animals to be hunting, like Edmontosaurus, you know, Triceratops. That's still a very dangerous animal to be dealing with, but I don't know. Ankylosaurus, it just seems so formidable. It really is just a fortress. How on earth do you kill this animal? It just, oh my god, I don't know. Maybe younger animals, but an adult, I don't fancy being hit with a club that weighs 20 kilograms and can hit you with a force of 4,800 newtons. Yeah, I'd rather just go for a hadrosaur. Or maybe go and scavenge. I'd rather scavenge than try and take on this tank of the Cretaceous. And I have some more interesting information to share with you here. I've just been looking at the force that a Stegosaurus could swing its tail with, and the impact, it's not even close, 343 newtons. It's nowhere close. 4,800 or 343. It's just incredible. Now, Stegosaurus has a very different method of killing or injuring its attackers. Those 4 spikes on the end of its tail, those would penetrate through the skin. They could probably even crack through some bones, but it's more designed for penetrating through the skin and probably causing blood loss. Or even imagine if it hit the lungs of an animal, went through the rib cage, bang, hit the lungs, the animal would definitely die. There are other animals that use tails as weapons. Some scientists believe that some of the sauropods would have used their tails as a whip, and that could probably, think of how big those animals were. If you got hit by one of those, a whip, it'd probably rip the skin off, maybe knock the animal down. It's fascinating, really, when you look at it, all these animals evolving different weapons to try and defend themselves from these predators. We've got whips, we've got horns, we've got clubs, we've got spikes, we've got thumb spikes on some of them. There's just loads of different things that they're coming up with to try and protect themselves. It's crazy what evolution is capable of. And I think we're pretty much finished, All I'm doing now is putting in a few lily pads. Lovely jubbly. So yes, thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like, comment your ideas down below, and don't forget to subscribe for more Prehistoric Kingdom content like this. Next time on Extinct Kingdom. Join us as we build a habitat for the mighty Triceratops. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like. Comment your ideas down below for the Triceratops habitat, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next